my friends stand by me only if I'm right. I come out of triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many on me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show them how I drew it.
Might allow him to win this battle, but I may win the war overall. You understand what I'm saying? And as a man, that's what I got to be to diffuse the situation and circle back around and address what's really going on.
Bro,
I think one of the darkest days in Black culture, I can remember as growing up, there's been a few tragic moments like in our like cultural history. One of them was when Marvin Gaye was assassinated, right? And everybody knows the tragedy of Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was assassinated by his father, shot, killed by his father. We here dealing with a podcast after having raised 12 sons with our wives, of course, but 5 childhood friends. One of the things that it pains me to see, and we all see it sometimes, it pains me when I see a father-son relationship that's not healthy. Right?
Yes, sir.
It pains me when I see or heard my oldest son, Amir, come in high school and tell me the story about one of his friends that got put out by his father over some ego stuff. Not over nothing like you did something crazy. Like over some, oh, you ain't want to listen? Get out.
Yeah.
How do we as Black men, and what did we do to invest in our young men to make sure that they have conflict resolution skills, notwithstanding their budding manhood, notwithstanding I'm becoming strong, I'm becoming a man, right? How important is it to make sure we don't end up in relationships with our sons like Marvin Gaye and his father? And I'm not speaking to the details because I don't remember all the details of Gaye and his father. I'm just talking about the toxicity, period.
On a surface level.
The details of it are irrelevant.
Okay.
The first thing we all need to acknowledge is that when you see a situation like Marvin Gaye and his father, is you need to know that that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever believe that something like that couldn't happen. All right. And so once you understand that and operating from that premise, you have to understand that every single thing that comes out of your mouth is absolutely crucial. There's some things you can't turn back from.
For
you
sure.
know, and many times when situations like that happens, it's usually because a father and a son are still having a father-son relationship, and the shift has taken place, and now it's 2 men talking, but the father doesn't want to accept he's talking to another man.
Mm-hmm.
He still wants to treat it as if the child, his son, is in a subservient position. And when that
is he not? Well, when you say, I mean, I don't want to say subservient though. Is there's a, because I know what you're saying, but there's a dynamic.
It is a
that
dynamic.
Still exists.
It says honor thy mother and thy father.
Yeah.
Right?
Respect.
Exactly. Right? So we know that is in place, but how do we do that? See, because we've always operated, when you were raising them, you had the power and authority because you were bigger than them. You could punish and spank if you chose to do that.
Right.
You could always punish. Well, what happens when you no longer can punish? You can't punish him. He's 25.
Mm-hmm.
He 19. You take the car away, whatever. You know what I mean?
No. You let the world punish. You let the things out there that's because I kind of recently dealt with that to an extent with K-Moo,
Okay.
right? With the decisions he made, and then the other episode we talked about of him taking a gap year, the craziest moment, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to fall back and be like, you know what? He's 21 plus now. I have to just kind of let him, be his own man, experience some things. Though as best as I tried to keep him from, whatever traps, not necessarily traps, but avoiding the things that I felt I could help him navigate. But even then, sometimes they don't even listen. You know what I mean? And so that's when you just kind of have to be like, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's. I mean, you right on to what I'm talking about. Now, suppose you the father and you pressing him on it,
and you ain't backing down.
Yeah, you going hard. You not backing down
because you believe and you
right.
making a stance.
See, this is when those conflicts happen that get escalated because we talking about how we avoided it. We talking about how we avoided it, but. Whenever something like that happens, how did we get there?
But see, when it's two men involved, both men got that responsibility. Because even though the father has a responsibility to tone down and respect the son's manhood, the son has a responsibility not to be aggressive in what he's trying to get across.
I think
it's a two-way street.
It's the boundaries, though.
Yeah, it is. It is because at a point we have to realize that it becomes a human dynamic versus a relationship dynamic. And the human dynamic is, at a certain point, I might feel threatened.
Yeah.
And that ain't got nothing to do with whether you daddy, mama, cat, dog, rat. If my humanity gets threatened to a certain point or gets pricked to a certain point and I feel threatened, my response could be to mute it and I do nothing and allow you to abuse me, or it could be too much. You know what I'm saying? So,
and you think about in the heat of the moment that if you're the father, you at a stance like, I don't want to hurt my son. I don't want to hurt my child. But then from a child perspective, right? Have you instilled those boundaries in your child to know how to back down? Because in so many circumstances, we teach our child to protect themselves. And I don't care who it is. Some parents, right?
Yeah.
And so now is a time that the heat and the tension is high on both parts. And I've taught my child not to back down. And he ain't backing down. And now I need to, as a father, I need to be conscious and aware that I planted the seed. And many times we might not be there to interact when they outside of the household and they not backing down. But now it's against the one who taught them.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, in the lesson of not backing down, is it within reason as far as, what I'm saying? At what point do you not, or do you back down, so to speak? That's what and humble really yourself. That's how I get. That's how you start bumping heads.
When to hold 'em.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So do you you have to teach that there's a point that you have to either submit to truth or to submit to reason.
Come on,
and that you just can't.
Come on.
You just can't not back down for the sake of not backing down. So the lesson in teaching not to back down has to have a point that you say, okay, I submit. But at the same time, you talking about truth. To both parties, they both believe what they saying is true, and so they stand hold to it. Well, no, at some point, I mean, we know that somebody's wrong, but at the heat of the moment, because based on what the conversation then led to, you might have said something hurtful, and you crossed the line. Well, see, why is perfect for this, because he won't. He crossed the line.
I just want to say,
he's perfect.
We've done 52 episodes, and this is the first time I want the fight between Talik and James to keep going. It's like, y'all keep going.
But it's
hey,
perfect
Joaquin
because
John, we get to watch.
he knows how Joaquin is.
And why is not going to back if you don't have a more superior position
Listen.
in thought
Listen.
that can shut it, and that really should how it should be.
And that might not even do it. Listen. Listen. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
This is what you don't know. This is what he will do. He will be 99% wrong.
Wow.
And find that one thing he right about and harp on that and get the last word. That's part of his.
He done mastered that
that's
on
part
you.
of his
Shots
argument.
fired. Shots fired.
So,
Joaquin, you ain't going like that, are you,
I was
Joaquin?
speaking to him saying,
Joaquin, you ain't going like that, are you?
let it out the bag.
99% wrong?
No, I'm just talking about. I'm
Come
not
on,
saying
bring
you're
it.
wrong all the time. It could be
No,
a
I
time.
don't-
All I need,
It could be a
Joaquin's like,
time.
all I need is 0.1%.
Hey, but at the end of the day, it's all about power. It's a power struggle. It's a pissing competition. It's power and respect, no matter what you arguing about, right or wrong. And so if you raise your child to be an independent man, and when we brought up Marvin Gaye as an analogy because those are both grown men. Again, it's a power struggle. I know when and when they're young and when they're teenagers and they're in the house, like you mentioned earlier, testosterone, you know what I mean? They're growing up, they're getting physically bigger and stronger. That's a natural thing, right? That's a God thing. No matter how we raise them, that's a natural thing that's happening. And I know when I was coming up, and I didn't have a man in the house, but I ain't want to hear my mom or grandma's mouth. I didn't want to hear it, But then I was like, I'm not going to be openly disrespectful to them, So then I knew it was time for me to leave because I was in their home. I respect them and love them enough, but I'm not going to argue with them like that. It's time for me to go. The bird got to get out of the nest, And so when we're talking about these power dynamics, are we talking about with a teenager in the house? Are we talking about as adults, as the 25-year-old man?
But see, I think Joaquin made the point.
At
Joaquin
each
made the
stage.
point that's the issue is that the power dynamic never changed. Is that the one of the things the fathers are doing are keeping it in the I'm the superior, you're the inferior. That's just how it go. From the time you a
Right.
child until we adults.
What about
Right,
suppose-
Use a different word than superior and inferior. Is there a different word as far as the respect is always going to be there as your father? Now listen,
Maybe
you
not.
a man,
Maybe not.
and you got your own territory there, and you got the last say over here. But I'm always had a last say here. You feel me?
But
And
there
so
are,
where has
but
this-
it's not a matter of managing physical space. Because
Correct.
the relationships cut across my interaction with mama, my interaction with the siblings, my responsibilities to the family as the child
Okay.
or the father, right? They cut across. So sometimes the father will want to making the call on how the family and the son's gonna respond to this.
Absolutely.
Like I told my son before, hey, we going to help such and such do this. You know what I'm saying? They were grown men. But I said, as a leader of this family, we got a duty right now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then one of them had said, well, I'm not going. I don't know what would have happened. No, I'm not. What I mean is, I wasn't luckily fortunate. No, not luckily. This is a good segue into my point. We ain't talking about power. We talking about back to that episode when I said they not our children.
It's power or respect.
They belong
yeah.
to God.
Okay.
So if they belong to God, that ignorant stuff that we say, that mamas and daddies say, I brought you in this world and I take you out. Well, you know what? No, you didn't bring them in this world.
Right.
You were used to bring them into this world.
You was a vessel.
So you have no right to claim your ability to take them out of this world because God used you to bring them here. So let's start with that, right? So, and then let's take it to not the power, let's take it into what the book says, that we got to rise above emotion into the thinking of God in all things. So yeah, if you parenting based on emotion and your feelings, and when your child resists what you think should be right, or they bucking, or even if they act in a way that's beyond the way you think they should act, if you can't handle your emotions from a God perspective, then you're going to mismanage that situation because you're taking everything that's happened personal.
Right.
And it ain't personal because I did this. That's the first thing we say. You know what we say? A child could come to somebody and tell an adult the truth and say, you know what? You did me wrong. You hurt me. You told grandma this. You did that. You told everybody I did this. You showed them my bad report card and all of my dirt, you did all of that, right? And then when that child come and call them out, and they say, after all I've done for you, you're gonna let these people know that I haven't tithed in 3 years. I mean, after all I've done for you,
Right.
that shouldn't be
Guilt.
the impetus
Right.
for why they should hold that adult down from exposing their dirt.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's talk about the emotion and us governing adults managing children and situations based on emotion. You can't manage no conflict with emotion, right?
Right. That's the first thing.
When emotion is high, logic is low.
There you go. Say it again.
When emotion is high, logic
When
is
emotion
low.
is high,
When
logic is
emotions
low.
are high, the logic is low.
So
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish what you said.
No, we having this conversation, but we've all been around situations when we just put our head down and shake and be like, Lord have mercy. What will you hope for them kids? Because you looking at how ignorant the parent is.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
sure.
How the level of ignorance that's coming from the parent. You know, and many times when stuff like this happen, that's what we got going on here.
Yeah.
You got a parent that's absolutely tripping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, it's rare when reasonable parent, reasonable kid, we can't resolve this stuff.
Right.
But usually it's something that's happening that, I know someone who hadn't had a relationship with his son for 20 years because he had been incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes home after 20-some years and
The son or the father?
The father comes home after 20 plus years
From jail.
from prison.
Okay.
The son comes home after 8 years
Prison.
From prison.
Okay.
So they finally interacting for like the first time ever since kid was 1. Now the kid is 28. All right.
Okay.
And so they have an incident where they start arguing over French fries. All right? French fries. And next thing you know is dad want to put hands on son want to put hands on dad. And it's all because, one, the relationship hadn't been established.
Right.
And they operating and treating each other as if they still in this prison environment.
Correct.
You know, son is like, hey, I'm a grown man. And dad is like, hey, I'm your father. You should respect me.
Right.
You know, and they had a serious rift. And through our conversations, I was telling dad, I was like, listen, man, I know it happened, but continue to reach out to your son. I said, just continue to reach out, because he don't trust that he's safe with you. Mm-hmm. He don't trust that he can share how he really feels and that be okay. I said, you have to demonstrate a level of consistency for him to trust you. All right. And then once you demonstrate that over time, he'll start to trust you. Yeah. I saw him last night and he said, hey man, he said, me and my son, we talking.
Oh, wow.
And we working on this thing, you know, and he was real happy to share that with me last night because he was basically doing what I was sharing with him. Man. He continued to reach out to his son and say, hey, you know, I apologize. I'm sorry I wasn't there. You know what I mean? I still got this love for you. And now they mending that relationship, you know, and it's taking time, but that's what they doing. And he shared this with me last night.
Oh, that's heavy.
Because it's never too late.
That's
It's
awesome.
really never
Right,
too late.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Why in some situations is there so much disdain and almost toxic just hatred between some fathers and sons? How does it get to that place? And the only way you can think about it is, I can't remember. I know you're going to say the quote, Waki, but it's something related to when you lose respect for someone. or trust or respect, whatever it is. But the problem is we want to set ourselves up as men, as leaders of the family, as leaders of our children, as somebody you're supposed to listen to. And then we sometimes operating off of just pure ignorance, or we no logic, don't make sense and don't question it, or we operating off of just, sometimes I wonder that whole thing about if we always talk about how the world beats down on black men or poor men or minority men. The world beat me down. The last thing I need is to come home and the woman beat me down. And that's a real thing, right? That our women have done, they have to manage, right? But it's the same dynamic with children. When I get home, ain't nobody listening to me all day. You gonna listen to me.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you come home exercising all this power and authority and control, and really what you're doing is purging the frustration and your own stress from the day, and then you begin, in this enmity that grows is the child that doesn't respond to that almost becomes an enemy to this man.
Yeah.
He don't listen. You become like the man now. He don't listen. He don't show me no respect. You gonna show me some respect. And now you chasing respect instead of chasing the development of your child.
Peace and blessings. To all of our businesses who are interested in advertising, we have great affordable rates. And if you'd like to advertise on our B2M Crew podcast, please reach out to us at b2mcrew5@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons that happens is because, and I talk to a lot of brothers that's in this situation, man. They you got to have two things to do this. You got to have the tools and the skills. Okay? I could be an amazing carpenter, but if I ain't got no tools, no hammer, no saw, I can't make nothing. All right? On the reverse, I can have all the tools in the world. Like me personally, because y'all know I can't make nothing. I ain't got no skills. I can have all the tools in the world, but I don't have any skills whatsoever to do that. And so when we talk about these relationships, what we're really talking about is the tool, how to communicate, and then the skill of communication. I mean, it don't matter. Whatever we trying to solve, man, I say this all the time, man. There are no difficult problems, man, only difficult people. And whatever the problem is, if good people are working on it, whatever the problem is, if good people of good faith are working on that problem, we can solve it. Mm-hmm. But if you could have the most simple thing in the world go wrong, but if you got two ignorant, trying to solve, it's gonna be chaos.
All right. So, Sam, let's talk about that, because then I'm hearing emotional versus logic, right? And you talk about logic really is having those tools that you talk about.
Yeah.
And so
reasoning,
is
all
emotion
of that stuff
what you go to when you don't have the tools?
Yeah,
right?
Oftentimes, yes.
And so how does someone supposed to manage that if
because
they don't have the tools and they want the tools and don't know?
The skill to then check your own emotion. We talked about emotional intelligence yesterday. That's the skill we're talking about. The skill to check your own emotions and say, you know what? My little niece don't want to hug me.
That's
my
really,
son,
that's dealing with the father-son thing is really we talk about respect, is really dealing with a lack of affection, a perceived lack of affection. He's not loving me.
Right.
My son is not loving me like he's supposed to.
That love language.
Yeah.
But
he's not loving me in the way it's supposed to look right now.
When and how is that lost, though?
Huh?
For many.
I think it's the trauma, man. Because like Joaquin, I have a hard time seeing how it could become toxic if time was spent and respect was given to the child and all of that. But now what I can see is sometimes, I don't have one, but I have worked with some children. You can blame them parents all you want to. Ain't nobody do that but nature. That child was born like that. A heathen. What I'm saying is sometimes there's some children that have some issues or that present with some situations that the parent just didn't do anything about. They were trying to raise them properly, and it's just they might have a dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
some of that happens too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if it's toxic, I think something happened that traumatized the relationship. And considering that most black households are led by a single parent, most of the male interactions we talking about with sons are coming out of situations where the dad is not in the house.
Absolutely.
So how, and let's pivot and talk about that, right? What about this situation about how do we help single mothers? What guidance or advice can we offer to single mothers who have a ex-husband or father of one of their children? I'm not gonna say baby daddy.
Yeah.
Father of one of their children, and you're trying to support your child in that relationship, and it can be potentially toxic. How do you help? What do you want to make sure your son or daughter, especially your son if it's a male, is equipped to know?
I think
Especially if the father's one of these knuckleheads potentially.
I think the first thing that I think a woman should try to do is just, that old saying, everybody grandma done told us, if you ain't got something nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Okay.
First thing is try not to talk bad about the father.
Say that again.
Try not to talk bad about the father to the son or daughter. Just that you, as a mother, you have to demonstrate some emotional intelligence and set aside all the wrongs that he probably has done to you. You need to set that aside for the sake of the child, for the sake of your
And
son.
that's not even the ones out of anger, right? Because sometimes it's at the cookout and it's, you hear your mama talking. This didn't happen to me, but a child can hear their mama talking about to another woman.
Right.
Right? And they say, and the other woman said, he looked just like his daddy. And she said, he got some of them same trifling ways too. And the child just going by and hear that.
Yeah.
And he gonna be just like him. Or that type of stuff, man, is poison.
Yeah.
That's right.
It is.
Yeah.
So now, if the child hears that and he doesn't have a real strong relationship with father, what does he begin to think about his father? So now when there's an encounter with the father, he bringing a different level of energy to that situation when he starts to interact with his dad. Because he got some history and some stories that's been told to him, or some ideas about dad that he gonna bring a different type of energy to any type of conversation that he have with dad.
That's in that situation.
In that
Because the other
situation.
situation is what you were talking about earlier was the flip side of that is dad. If that works, like if your child, if the mom talking bad works, you haven't been around enough.
Correct. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, it shouldn't work.
Because we got too many brothers that's complaining about their relationships with their sons, while at the same time they complaining about the fact they got to pay child support.
True.
Yeah,
That's a problem. Listen to how our brothers describe it. Man, she got me on child support.
That's what they say.
She got me on child support.
I told her we was gonna work this thing out, and she went through his system,
Yeah.
the white man system.
Yeah.
So what if he was taking care of his child all the time? And
When
then
you
he said
the
that,
minute you have a child out of wedlock or you divorce your wife or whatever, you need to stop arguing about the laws related to that. Because you already knew getting into it that there's a situation that could arise where legally somebody could make you pay for this, depending on the circumstances. And that person is gonna have that right. So somebody's feelings about it, I don't really have no sympathy for it. I really don't. Because ultimately, to me, if you're in a situation where you were taking care of it, I don't think it's many situations like that. That you was taking care of it, and she said, you know what, I'm taking you to court anyway.
Right.
I'm not talking about no time issues, about visitation. I'm talking about money. If you was handling your business as a father, you telling me, because really, you should be handling more than what the court gonna say. The stuff you willing to do as the father. It should be more than the $800 a month. It should be, I'm handling what's needed. Now, okay, 800. Let's like to me, the logical thing would be to do at a minimum what the court say I'm gonna have to pay. The court say I gotta pay 8. All right, I'm gonna give you 14. I'm just saying as a man, right? If you can find a, you gotta find a way.
Yeah.
So my point is, you can't be mad, and that's what happens in these relationships is, I'm paying child support, so everybody over there need to respect me.
Right.
Regardless of the time spent.
That's the attitude.
Yeah, and I got a situation, and wow, I know of a story. I know of a situation where a absent father sparingly has been in the child's life. Early on, not much. Mid, as of late, last 5 or 6 years, stepping up to the plate. Right? Tension comes, child's a teenager. Over a very minor social environment issue about somebody spoke to who, when, where, and why. Father flexing. I need to be ultimately respected. Boom, 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 boom. Now, mind you, don't live with the child. 5 years been great, but there's been some issues prior to that. I pay this and that. I do this and that. You gonna respect me. No other man, this and that, 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 this and that. Right? Destroys the child's spirit. Don't want to be around them no more. Right?
Yeah.
Mom got a dilemma. Right? Everybody says you got to make sure he knows his daddy. You got to put him around his people. This man just tried to kill his spirit. Right?
Yeah.
Over what are you flexing over? Because it's not even true what you're saying. You just got a need to be seen in a certain way. See, that's what I'm saying. This old Uncle Charlie stuff. This old Uncle Charlie stuff is causing black men to terrorize black men. Because we keep visiting on one another what we saw the oppressor visit to our ancestors. That's what we doing, man. And we ego tripping and getting our purge off on our family, on our friends, on the people that love us because of what we can't manage during the day because of the pressure of what society putting on us. So we always ready to fight somebody and have a conflict. So if my son buck up, yeah, you the leg, yeah. I'm the, yeah. I made this round here.
Right.
Listen, see, and that's a problem, man. So this whole mental health crisis, I don't know what we gonna do, man. Because the church is not fixing it. The mosque's not fixing it. The synagogue's not fixing it. We got a bunch of sick people walking around that need fixing. That can't manage their emotions.
I was about to
terrorizing one another.
I was about to say that, bro, because when he mentioned the whole tool piece earlier, what should that tool be? What should those tools be? Scriptures, if you're religious, or some form of principles that establishes a moral code are the tools. And then in that being, learning and knowing how, as he said, having the skill to convey and implement that and making sure that lays the foundation for the relationship of the son and father and daughter or whomever with your children and everything. And because I have to go a little bit back because I think bottom line, it's a matter of realizing, or we're expecting to be respected as fathers, as they're growing up, right? We have to understand and discern the time that we then have to respect the fact that they're adults now and deserve the type of respect that you've been demanding as father in that position. But then just knowing that we're, I wouldn't say equal, so to speak, but with terms of respect, we deserve the same amount of respect because it's man to man now. Still father and son, but man to man. And you have to be able to discern that. And I think that would, of course,
what type of conflicts don't get come up between the father and the son in an adult setting, right? Like that's other than an issue where the father mad because the son not doing it the way he want it done.
Yeah, that's
It's
exactly.
not, I mean, I'm just.
I think one of the things I want to touch on when you talk about the moral piece is that as fathers, all right, we have to recognize that there are two types of authority. All right, there's authority by title. I'm your dad, and then there's moral authority. I have lived a life and demonstrated a set of values and principles that I have lived my life by, under which guides what I do. And as a result of that, you then want to follow my leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Many times when we have these conflicts, or when there are conflicts with fathers and sons, they operating on authority by title. And the reason they upset is because they've lost all moral authority with their children.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I see you as a hypocrite. You can't tell me nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You a hypocrite. Get out my face.
And I'm willing to stand on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when the child stands on that and put the mirror up to your face, oh, you in your feelings now.
Mm-hmm.
You in your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now you want to fight,
Yeah. Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Boss up.
Because you
Right.
can't manage your emotions.
And you know you falling down on the job when it came to upstanding and withholding your moral authority. You know you falling short.
Right. Right.
And so now they holding you to that.
Right.
They holding you to account for that. And you don't like it. And you need to accept the fact that you have fallen and ask for forgiveness and start to live a life by which you can gain your moral authority back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Go
there's
ahead, John. You was about
sometimes
to
you
say
can
something?
have that moral authority and still be disrespected. Right or wrong?
You can.
Absolutely.
You can, because you got some
Yeah.
children that just on that type of time.
And kind of piggybacking on what you were saying too, a lot of this is self-hatred. You know, you see in your son, you don't even love yourself. And then sometimes you see him, and so I know I've been guilty of seeing something in any of my children, right? Now, like, damn, my initial thought, I want to beat it out of them, right? And then, when I'm honest with myself, I'm, ooh, he got that from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't argue with him, I don't fight with him. So now I got to correct that behavior, or I got to hide it. One of the two. If I can't fix it, I
Beat
can't.
it out yourself.
Right, exactly.
Don't want to
I-
do that. That's
I
painful.
need
To hold on to that behavior.
right. And so when you're honest with yourself about your children when they're young, they're gonna show characteristics. When the people say they just like you, they just like their mom, and they got their own personality. So yeah, everyone want to take credit for the good stuff that the children do, but when they show some shaky behaviors, you don't want to accept credit for that, right? Or the blame for that.
Right.
And so I think that start at a young age, right? And then early when I talked about power and respect, it's always power and respect in my mind, because like, okay, as a man, I think your boy Charleston White said it. I might
My
mess
boy.
up.
Okay.
He says my guy. He said something like about it was
That's
talking about
John's pastor.
Charleston White.
Charleston White is his pastor.
Hey, Cat Williams, his new pastor.
Cat Williams is one of my new pastors. My pastor consists of him, Dave Chappelle, a couple pastors I had to take out. They under investigation.
And the guy asked him.
That's another episode.
Exactly. So
We digress.
He said something about it being a
my
beta or
scale.
alpha male, right? And he asked him what a man is. I'm a man. I'm a man is being what I have to be in any given situation at a given time. So I ain't always alpha, I ain't always beta, right? But if two men and you alphas, nobody's gonna back down. You understand what I'm saying? But if you believe that's the definition of a man, sometimes you know what? I'm gonna walk away from this before it get explosive like the Marvin Gaye situation.
Humility.
I'm gonna walk away, right, to live to fight another day. I might allow him to win this battle, but I may win the war overall. You understand what I'm saying? And as a man, that's what I gotta be to diffuse the situation and circle back around and address what's really going on.
Bro,
that's gonna lead to this.
I had a that very situation that you talk about, I had with Darius. And it was probably about a year and a half ago, where he was going through some things, and you know, during a tough time, and he was struggling. we went to check on him. And when we get to his house, he had already told me, don't come out here. I'm good. Don't come out here. But I knew he wasn't good. I'm your dad. I know you're not good. And one of the messages I wanted to convey to him was, when you're going through something like this, don't even dare try to go through this alone. That's crazy to do that.
Yeah, right.
And so I show up at his house, and he's really upset.
Extremely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you was with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really upset, and he says, as he's like, he opened the door and he going up the steps, and he said, "Didn't I effing tell you not to come out here?" Like that, right? Now, in that moment, first of all, that was the first time that type of language had ever come out of his mouth in reference to me.
Right.
And in that moment, I immediately knew my immediate instinct is to jump on his throat.
Nigga, who the fuck talking to?
All right? That was my immediate instinct.
Right. You want to beat it out of him.
Yeah. But in that moment, I know, bro, now we got to demonstrate some emotional intelligence. All right. I know we have a phenomenal relationship. I know he does not disrespect me, but he had a disrespectful moment. All right. He had a very disrespectful moment. But if I allow my ego to take over and take charge in that moment, all the relationship that we have, it could be destroyed and undone.
Right.
Because my ego is in check. I know he's going through something.
Right.
Why in the world would I then let my ego govern how I manage this situation with him?
Yeah.
That can be totally destructive to our relationship. And so I let it slide, And I'm like, all right, let it slide. We'll address it later, because now ain't the time. Emotions are high. Logic is low. Why in the world would I try to have a conversation? Now I'm like, you disrespected me. You talking that. We didn't even hear what I came out here for.
Right. Then it turned into a power
Now,
struggle.
now it's about me and him.
There, and nobody gonna back down.
Exactly.
So what did you do?
That's
What happened?
crazy.
What did you do?
I let it slide, and we left, and we went home.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, what happened? What actions
we
were
left
taken
and we
place?
went
Okay,
home.
You respected that for,
And then
like you said, let it
we
slide.
talked about it later, and he was like, "My bad. I was going
That's a
through
classic
something."
case that you use a beta and walked away and avoided, then came back around and addressed.
That's
it.
right.
And I want
That's why
to
people
tap.
ain't always this or always that.
I want to add to that because for those who don't know, this is my brother, and I was in that situation at the house at the time.
Oh yeah, because you
And
rode with me.
And so, as a standby, as a person, yes, that's my nephew, but this is family business. This is real family, in-house family business. So I'm thinking of a gazillion things, right? First of all, I'm thinking, oh, snap. He don't know what he just said to his father. Like, he don't know, like I know, like what his father was capable of doing at the moment. And so, one, I was like, all right, I need to leave and go and sit in the car. That's what I was thinking. Then I was like, ain't no way in the world Tracy gonna be able to get him off of his son if it get that point. And so I'm in between, do I stand in this house and be able to get in the middle of this? Or do I leave because I know now he know if I'm there, I'm the only one that can get him off of him. So, but if I leave, it will save his son. And so sometimes people in these situations like could have escalated and, man, hold on, don't be talking to my brother like that, right? And very well, at times, those are things that take place because other people get in family
The
mess.
sidelines.
Yeah, and
And
what
this
I
was
did
terrible.
was same thing. I immediately said, okay, when he didn't take off upstairs, I said, you know what? Let me leave. And I went outside. And I was like,
That's all you did. You didn't say anything to Wall, like
I didn't need to say
trying to
nothing.
kind of check him or say.
Nah, this was not the time for.
I was saying say something to Wall.
No.
Like, hey, yo, I know you're probably ready to just choke this joker.
No, there's so many things that's taking place, but because I know this person, and this ain't a time to talk. This is a time to take moves. And back to that emotional intelligence, I'm using another level of intelligence because
from what you know between both of them.
Right now, he don't want to hear nothing from me. He don't want to hear nothing from nobody.
You just trusted he was going to respond the way
I knew if I moved out of the situation that he was going to drop 2-3 notches versus if I had have said something, then somebody else might would have said something. And now we up here.
Real quick question, because this is what was sitting on my mind as well. When you mentioned certain things, just on the base level of just relationship emotion alone, just imagine if alcohol, drugs, or whatever is involved. So my question was going to be this. Now I don't know. Had Darius?
Now we talking about the police.
Had he been drinking or anything like that? See, so
no drinking, no smoking, none of that.
So these are the things, though.
Just emotion.
We're almost anomalies. You know what I mean? As far as not having that type of influence involved.
Great point.
You know what I mean? So
put a good point.
We have to let our audiences know that you have to be sober minded. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, it's easy to say you can't, but it's best not to have those things involved. In the way you handle and interact with.
Hey, 2 or 3 out of us 5 might not be sober right now, James.
I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I finish with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. They don't want me in the office 'cause I